Good morning. Today we are going to talk about the second part of the market, which is supply. As we said when we talked about the market, that the market has two main players. They are the demand side or the consumers and the supply side or the producers. We have talked about demand and elasticity of demand, and today we are going to focus on supply. So we have to think from the point of view of the producer. This producer would like to maximize his own profit. He has one main objective, which is profit maximization. So what's supply? Just like demand, when we talked about demand, that the word demand refers to the law of demand. Also, we have a law of supply. Based on law of supply, there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied. Other things being constant or ceteris paribus. Law of supply can be illustrated by words or using supply schedule or supply curve or using a mathematical form which is supply function. So let's start with the supply schedule. Supply schedule shows the relationship between price and the quantity supplied of a product. So from this schedule, we can find that there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied, as when price increases from 0 to 2, quantity supplied increased from 0 to 100. When price increased from 2 to 4, quantity supplied increased from 100 to 200 and so on. This can be illustrated graphically as quantity supplied on the x-axis and the price on y-axis. Zero and zero, 2 and 100, 4 and 200, 6 and 400 and 300, etc. So this is the supply curve. Don't forget to write the notations, to write the labels. So the first way in order to explain or to represent the law of supply is using supply function. Supply function, we can write supply function as QS, which is quantity supplied, equals C plus dP, where QS is quantity supplied and it is a dependent variable. B is the independent variable, which is the price. C is the intercept. which is the value of QS when price equals 0. D is the slope, which is a change in quantity supplied due to change in price by 1 unit. And the positive sign stands for the positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied. So for example, if we write quantity supplied as 100 plus 5b, this means that if price equals 0, quantity supplied will be 100. If price increases by 1 unit, quantity supplied will increase by 5 units. According to law of supply, we said that ceteris paribus, there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied, other factors being constant, or ceteris paribus. What are the other factors that can affect supply, and what are their impact on the supply? So here we have to differentiate between movement along the curve and shift of the curve. Movement along the curve, which is caused by only one factor, which is the price. This is the supply curve. As price increases from B1 to B2, quantity supplied is going to increase from Q1 to Q2, and we are going to move from point A to point B along the same curve. What about shifts? Shifts are caused by changes in number of factors. What are the factors that affect supply? Number one, number of producers. As number of producer increases, so supply is going to increase. For simplicity, if you have only one, this is a small village, and there is only one supplier. This individual is going to supply 100 units of a product. By time, new suppliers would like to sell these products, so there are a number of suppliers. Even if the first one is not going to sell 100 units or supply 100 units, he is going to supply just 80 units. And let's assume that the second supplier is going to supply 20 units, the third supplier is going to supply 20 units, and the fourth supplier is going to supply 20 units. So the overall number of units supplied has increased from 100 to 140. So as the number of producers or suppliers of a commodity increase, total supply is going to increase. Factor number 2, a change in prices of factors of production, or in other words, a change in cost of production. So say for example, wages increase. So this means that cost of production is going to increase. And as we have limited resources, so suppliers have to decrease supply of their products. And the same with respect to increase in rents or interest paid. So factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Land earns rent, capital earns interest, and labor earns wages. An increase in the price of any one of them will cause an increase in cost of production of the products. And as a result, suppliers have to decrease their supply of these products. Number 3, technological progress or improvement. Technological progress or technological improvement. If there is an improvement in technology, this means that supply is going to increase. Number 4, government policy. Or government actions. That can be through imposing taxes or giving subsidies. If the government is going to impose tax, this means that cost of production is going to increase and supply is going to decrease. On the contrary, if the government is going to give subsidy, cost of production is going to decrease and supply is going to increase. All of these factors will cause a shift to the supply curve. If they are going to increase, so supply curve will shift to the right. Say, for example, the government is going to provide subsidy for producers. As a result, supply is going to increase and supply curve will shift to the right. If the government is going to impose tax on the producers, so cost of production is going to increase and the supply curve will shift to the left. So the 4 factors, which are number of producers, change in the price or factors of production, technological progress, and government actions, all of them will cause shift to the supply curve, whether to the right or to the left, based on whether they are going to increase supply or decrease supply. Price elasticity of supply. When we talked about demand, we talked about law of demand, factors that affect demand, and then we moved to elasticity of demand. Now we have to do the same with respect to supply. First of all, we talked about law of supply, factors affecting supply, and then we are going to talk about elasticity of supply, mainly price elasticity of supply. Elasticity of supply is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity supplied due to change in price. So we can write it as elasticity of supply, its percentage change in QS over percentage change in price. And here we have two different types of elasticity of supply, point and arc. Let's start with the arc. In case of arc, percentage change in QS is calculated as a change in quantity supplied over average quantity supply, or in other words, it is Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 over 2. And with respect to price elasticity where percentage change in price, it's calculated as change in price over average price. So it is B2 minus B1 over B2 plus B1 over 2. So now we have to divide this one by this one. So it will be Q2 minus Q1 divided by B2 minus B1 multiplied by B2 plus B1 over 2 divided by Q2 plus Q1 over 2 divided by 2 and divided by 2, they are going to cancel each other. So the final form will be Q2 minus Q1 divided by B2 minus B1 multiplied by B2 plus B1 divided by Q2 plus Q1. So this is the rule for arc elasticity, which means that we have two different prices and two different quantities. So say, for example, if it's required to calculate price elasticity of supply, if you know that price increases from 4 to 5, and as a result, quantity supplied increases from 10 to 12. So elasticity of supply will be Q2 12 minus 10 divided by 5 minus 4 multiplied by 5 plus 4 divided by 12 plus 10. So it will be 0.82. Just like the price elasticity of supply, the value of elasticity will be from 0 to infinity, and this is 1. If it is 0, this is perfectly inelastic. Less than 1, it's inelastic. 1 unit elastic, greater than 1 is elastic, and finally with respect to infinity is perfectly elastic demand. So in our case it's 0.82, which is here, so it is inelastic supply. It will be positive, as according to law of supply there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supplied. What about point elasticity, not arc? In case of point, we have only one price and only one quantity, and in this case elasticity of supply will be calculated as Q2 minus Q1 divided by B2 minus B1 multiplied by B over Q. This is the slope of the supply function, so it is D multiplied by B over Q. Example: if this is the supply function and the required is to find price elasticity of supply when price equals 4. In this case, we have to calculate the quantity by substituting using the price in QS. So in this case, quantity will be 50 plus 2 multiplied by 4, which is 58. Elasticity of supply is D, which is 2, multiplied by 4 over 58. It will be 0.14. It's less than 1, so it is inelastic supply. What is the shape of the supply curve in each case? In case of perfectly elastic, in case of perfectly inelastic, in case of inelastic, and so on. If elasticity equals 0, which means perfectly inelastic demand, so this is the supply curve. Whatever the change in the price, the quantity is constant. And the other extreme case, it will be parallel to x-axis, and this is in case of infinity. Almost there is no change in prices, but quantity is going to change or to respond quickly or sharply. In case of unit elastic, it's 45-degree line. In case of inelastic supply, and finally in case of elastic supply, okay, let's explain it in details. Case by case. Number 1, perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic means that price elasticity of supply is 0. And as you know that elasticity of supply is percentage change in in QS divided by percentage change in price. So in order to have 0, this means that percentage change in quantity is 0. So the value of this part is 0. So in this case, Whatever the change in price, quantity is constant. So there is no change in quantity, and the prices are going to change. Case number 2, inelastic supply. Inelastic means elasticity of supply is less than 1. So in this case, this is the supply curve. As you can find from the figure, that the change in quantity is much more smaller than the change in price. So this means that percentage change in QD will be smaller than percentage change in price. So the final value will be less than 1. Unit elastic. Unit elastic means that elasticity of supply equal 1. So this is the case of the 45-degree line, which means that the change in prices is equivalent to change in quantity. They are equal to each other. So percentage change in QS will be equal to percentage change in price. So the value will be 1. Elastic supply, which means that ES is greater than 1. This means that the percentage change in quantity supplied is much more greater than percentage change in price. As you can see from the figure, that the difference between Q1 and Q2 is much more greater than the difference between B1 and B2. So percentage change in QS will be greater than percentage change in price. Finally, and the last case is the elastic, perfectly elastic supply. This means that elasticity of supply will be infinity. So in this case, almost there is no change in prices, but quantity is going to respond. So percentage change in QS percentage change in P will be 0, while percentage change in QS will be number divided by 0 is infinity. This is the end of our chapter. Thank you and see you next week.